families are the people you're related to by blood. Have fun watching the house while we're on vacation." My mother-in-law said that with a triumphant look on her face. How rotten could she get? Watch out. I'll show you what happens to people who mess with me. My name is Audrey. I'm 35 years old. I'm just a regular housewife living together with my husband Fred and daughter Stephanie. Housewives have it toughest in the morning, between making breakfast, helping Stephanie get ready for school, throwing out the trash, and so on. It can be overwhelming. Today, Fred left for work and I dropped Stephanie off at school as always. "Bye-bye, Mom. Have fun at school." Once the two were away, I could finally catch my breath. Returning home, I finished up some final chores and then got to work. I work as an illustrator. I do my job remotely. People always tell me I'm lucky to work from home. Not having to commute does take a weight off things. But for better or for worse, I can never fully detach myself from work. While doing housework or taking care of Stephanie, all I can think about is my work. But I'm fine with that. I like my job after all. I checked my project plan for the day and got to work. Sitting down, I noticed the cat-shaped pen holder on my desk. Picking it up, I looked at it for a while. This is something very important to me. Fred gave it to me on our first date. I met Fred 10 years ago. We got to know each other when I was hired for a project at the publishing company he works at. I was in charge of creating illustrations for a magazine they printed. I had just started working as an illustrator, but Fred treated me really kindly. At other publishers, I'm sure I would have been scolded or belittled.
"The detail of these lines is really well done. Illustrations really show the personality and emotions of their artist, don't they? I really like this drawing."
I immediately took a liking to Fred because, as a newcomer, no one had ever said such kind things to me before. After my project at the publishing company ended, we continued meeting up and started dating. We then eventually got married. However, I wasn't Fred's first wife. His previous wife had passed away from an illness, and he had been left to take care of their daughter alone. That was Stephanie. I never imagined that getting married would give me a 6-year-old daughter, but Fred's seriousness and Stephanie's sweetness pulled me in and made me decide to make the leap. Fred has always been a kind husband and reliable father. Stephanie was naturally a bit defensive at first, but we quickly grew close. Fred understood my work well, and earnestly helped around the house and with Stephanie when I was busy. I really married a great man. I'm incredibly busy every day, but there's nothing more I can ask for in life. That's what I thought. But...
"Audrey, you're here, aren't you?"
A barrage of doorbell ringing and a rasping voice pulled me out of my concentration, and I had just come up with a good idea. A bit annoyed, I headed to the front door. Looking through the peephole, I saw my mother-in-law standing outside, looking flustered. Again. I've told her countless times to call before she visits, but she just won't listen. The illustration I'm working on today is due soon. I'm sorry, but I don't have time for her. Thinking that, I opened the door. "Why are you here?"
"Do I need a reason to come over? You're always home anyway, so what's the issue?"
"I'm in the middle of work. I'm sorry, but today..."
"Work? You're just messing around, right? I'm hungry. Make me lunch."
She ignored me and walked right into our home. "As I said, I'm in the middle of work. If you're hungry, please eat at your own home."
"You sure have some nerve. Have you not been taught that you shouldn't talk back to your elders?"
I couldn't say anything back to her, but I also couldn't let her continue. "Please. My project's deadline is coming up soon."
"You really are so annoying. In that case, shut yourself up in your room and work. I'll do what I want." "Ugh, you're such a pain."
I let out a deep sigh. Talking to her anymore will just be a waste of time. I'll be in my office. do what you will. I said that and went back to my work. If I had one wish, it would be to cut off ties with my mother-in-law. She's always bothering me while I'm working. What was her problem? I could barely hold in my anger as I walked over to my desk. But finishing this project comes first. I was desperate to get back into focus. At a bit past 2 p.m., I heard a car engine noise from near the front door. The school bus? This much time has already passed. I skipped lunch without even realizing. Stephanie was already home.
Mom, I'm home.
Her cheery voice rang through the house. As I was heading to meet Stephanie,
Stephanie, welcome home.
my mother-in-law was one step ahead of me.
Huh? Where's Mom? Your mom is too busy to play with you. She loves her work more than she loves you. Isn't she a horrible mother?
I heard her hateful words. How dare she says things like that to a child?
And that's not true. Mom always tells me she loves me more than anything else.
Not believing her grandmother, Stephanie walked over to my office.
Mom, what's for dinner tonight?
She said with a smile. She really was so adorable. But from behind her, my mother-in-law was glaring at me devilishly. Thinking about it, my mother-in-law has treated me like this since Fred and I first got married. I'm not sure whether she didn't like my job or just didn't like me.
Even a child could do this work. How stupid. I feel bad for Stephanie with her mom doing such an unserious job. Quit your job and move in with me. If someone like you is in charge of raising Stephanie, what will happen to her?
She always says things like that to me. Of course, I fight back, and Fred also speaks up for me. But my mother-in-law never listened. She was a genius at pretending she can't hear us. But there was one thing that saved me, and that was the fact that Stephanie didn't trust her grandmother. I was ready to jump and attack my mother-in-law for the things she said to Stephanie about me, but Stephanie replied,
I love Mom. Grandma, you're lying, aren't you?
Stephanie trusted me, but I'm sure this will begin to affect Stephanie eventually, so I can't let things continue like this. It was time to put some distance between us. Even Fred says so. I was getting extremely annoyed with my mother-in-law. One day at dinner, Fred said,
Hey, how about we go on a family trip?
A family trip?
Yeah, it seems like I can use the paid days off I've been saving up. How about going somewhere, the three of us? Stephanie will be starting summer break soon too.
That sounds great. Let's do it. I readily agreed.
Stephanie, where do you want to go?
Stephanie gave it some thought.
If it's with Mom and Dad, I'll go anywhere.
At that moment, tropical island scenery appeared on the TV. Thinking about it, I haven't been to the beach in years.
How about we go to Guam?
And like that, it was decided. International travel. We haven't gone abroad since our honeymoon. How exciting. Using our trip as motivation, I put my all into my work. Since summer break is peak travel season, the flights were a bit pricey, but one should treat themselves every once in a while. We booked a 5-day, 4-night trip to Guam for our family. Our trip just around the corner, and my mother-in-law came over unannounced as I was working, as always. I wanted to chase her away, but dealing with her was a hassle. I opened the front door for her, as always.
You're being awfully obedient today.
I'm sure I was just in a good mood because our trip was coming up soon. As soon as my mother-in-law sat down on our living room sofa,
What's this?
She was pointing at a pamphlet on our coffee table. We're going to be going on a family trip there soon.
I haven't heard anything about that.
Sorry, we're leaving next week and we'll be gone for a week. We'll bring you back souvenirs. I thought for sure that I was going to be blamed for not telling her about the trip.
That's not what I'm talking about. If it's a family trip, shouldn't I be invited too?
Fred and I discussed things, and we decided to go just the three of us. We can go on a trip together with you next time. I said that to try to smooth things over.
Family are the people you're related to by blood. I should be the one going, not you.
She says something ridiculous. What are you talking about? There's no way.
I'm going on the family trip. Have fun watching the house while we're on vacation.
Don't be so selfish. That won't happen. I argued vehemently with my mother-in-law.
No, I'm going. No matter what anyone says, I'm going.
She continued on strongly. It was as if I was arguing with a child in the middle of a temper tantrum.
You aren't our family. You're just a stranger.
You aren't our family? Those words stabbed into my heart. Why do I have to hear this? Tears spilled out from my eyes. As my mother-in-law walked away, I noticed Stephanie standing nearby. She was already back from school. I was so shaken that I didn't realize what time it was. Stephanie looked at me worriedly.
Mom, are you okay? Did Grandma say something mean to you?
It's okay, Stephanie. I wiped my tears and smiled at Stephanie.
Mom, I love you. I will protect you.
Hearing Stephanie's words, I cried again, but this time of happiness. At the same time, I felt a bit pathetic. Showing my daughter such a weak side of myself? What in the world was I doing? How could I make my 6-year-old daughter feel like she has to say that to me? I can't let things continue like this. I told Fred what happened.
She shouldn't talk like that. Audrey, I'm sorry.
Please talk to her. Why do I have to be made a fool of and told that I'm not part of the family? I was so frustrated that tears flowed from my eyes again.
I'm really sorry.
Your mother says she's going to go on the trip no matter what. Fred made a concerned face.
Once she makes up her mind, she won't listen to any reasoning.
We both held our heads in our hands. I won't let her get in the way of our fun trip. On the day of our departure, my mother-in-law arrived at our house with a huge suitcase.
Stephanie, I'll be joining the trip instead of your mom.
Stephanie didn't look happy to be hearing that at all.
Mom, why? Come on, why? It's okay. It'll definitely be fun. But I want Mom there.
And don't worry. I'll be there.
You're only here to drive us to the airport.
My mother-in-law said that with a wide grin. The four of us headed to the airport. But then, as we were checking into the flight,
Ma'am, I'm sorry, but you won't be able to board this flight.
The staff at the counter didn't let my mother-in-law check in. The face my mother-in-law made at that moment was priceless. With anger bubbling up from the bottom of her heart, her face grew bright red.
What do you mean?
As I said, you won't be able to board this flight. The name on your passport is different from the name that the flight reservation is under.
My daughter-in-law is unable to go, so I'll be flying in her place. What's the issue?
For security reasons, we cannot allow that.
She was turned down over and over. With a worn-out look on his face, Fred carried on with the check-in.
How could you do this?
If you cause any more commotion, we will have to call security.
My mother-in-law was pulled away from the check-in counter. Have you finally understood? My mother-in-law looked stunned. She really was clueless. There's obviously no way she could go in my place if the ticket was preserved under my name. In a country like the United States, that would never fly. Knowing that she would get rejected like that, I handed her my flight reservation information without giving it much thought. Fred also helped me out. After talking things through, we decided it would be best for his mother to experience something like this at least once. But she couldn't handle her anger and exploded.
Audrey, you! How far will you go to make me feel like a fool? I pity Stephanie for having such a petty mother like you. You idiot woman!
At that moment, a voice screamed,
Stop! Grandma, stop bullying Mom. I want to go on this trip with Mom and Dad. You should just go home. We're trying to have fun. I was looking forward to this so much. I hate you, Grandma.
Hearing those words from the granddaughter she loved, the look of shock on my mother-in-law's face looked like it was straight out of a cartoon.
Stephanie, you hate me? I hate you. I hate you so much.
Stephanie turned her back to her grandmother. I left Fred to deal with his mother, whose heart had been shattered, and I finished the check-in while hugging Stephanie in my arms. Of course, my check-in went smoothly. That's only natural. After being scolded by Fred, his mother went home. My mother-in-law slouched back as she walked away, clearly showed her disappointment. Unable to go on the trip, hated by her grandmother. It's what she deserved. After we sat in the plane, I spoke to Fred about what happened. Don't scold Stephanie too much about what happened. She was doing it to protect me.
I know. She was angry at her grandma, too. Audrey, I'm sorry for putting you through all that.
Don't worry about it. Let's enjoy this trip as much as we can. And that's exactly what we did. Fred's mother didn't contact us even once during the trip. It felt like a breath of fresh air. From then on, my mother-in-law never spoke poorly of me again. Well, more like she stopped coming over. Actually, after our family trip, she tried visiting once.
A grandma like you that just bullies Mom? You aren't my family. I hate you.
Stephanie completely rejected her grandma, though they were related by blood. Stephanie, you shouldn't say things like that. I warned her. I had to teach her that she should treat her grandma with respect, regardless.
But I want to protect you, Mom. You always seem so sad.
Stephanie wanted to protect me, her mom, even if we weren't related by blood. There was no way I could blame her for that. Thank you, Stephanie. I love you. But you should treat people with kindness.
Okay, but you won't cry anymore, right?
I won't. Thanks to you, I'm happy. I gave her a tight hug. It doesn't matter if we're blood-related or not. Stephanie is my daughter, my family. Ostracized from her son and granddaughter, who will my mother-in-law rely on from now on? Thinking about that is a bit sad, but I won't forgive her for the way she treated me. Don't look down on me. Do you understand?
Dad, you should protect Mom from now on, too.
Of course, I will do all I can so our family can live happily ever after.
I'm not sure if he understands what's going through my mind now that I've got my revenge on my mother-in-law, but looking at Fred, I feel my eyes getting misty. I'm so happy I married him and became Stephanie's mom. And I'm happy that my daughter is growing up to be so tender and strong.